Hello and welcome to my Artisanal Living playlist video. Today's video, I actually wanted to do a little tutorial and show you how I take a long sleeve t-shirt with a regular neckline and turn it into one that I feel suits my style and my physique much better. Now, I've already recorded the tutorial part of this, but for some reason the audio didn't pick up when I did my intros. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Marie-Nicole. I'm a designer and maker, an artisan, a creator. I have been a creative professional for over 25 years now, running my own business. And I also do coach people in the area of their online presence and their health and well-being in business. But that's not what I'm here to talk to you about today. I'm here to show you the way that I have recreated garments over the years to suit my style and physique. Now, I had a commercial space for 6 years in our local town, and I sold on behalf of other creative professionals, and I made on site. I work with a lot of leather and feathers, and I make artisanal items that actually support you in your everyday living experience, but I also make garments. Now, I've been sewing since I was in primary school. My mother was a seamstress. I love to sew, but I never actually planned for that to become my profession. But before I even opened my commercial space and I had a market stall, I would have on display a mannequin with garments on it that I had made and my artisanal goods like my leather bags or my blanket and leather bags in situ. And people would always ask about the garments and wanted to buy them. And then when I opened my commercial space, people wanted to buy what I was wearing. So I ended up making garments to sell and made only on a small scale. A lot of garments were made to order so that I could actually adapt the neckline and the hem length and the sleeve placements to suit the person's physique. I used to run an event called Made to Measure and would launch the new season like autumn, winter, spring, summer, and launch new designs for that time period, but make the garments to order to suit the people that were buying them and also in the colors that suited them. And I really am big on creating a capsule wardrobe rather than just buying what's in fashion, actually building a wardrobe that supports your style and your lifestyle. One of the garments which I made, which was really popular in the store, and I would sell off the rack, it didn't have to be made to order, but it could be in a color or in a different length, is this chandra top. Now, this chandra top is made out of a piece of the offcut material of a fine merino, beautiful quality, single origin fine merino knit, which is a one-way stretch. And I used to make vests out of this top to begin with, the Adriana vest, which I'll talk more about in a minute, but there was a little piece left over, just one little length that was not able to be cut into any other kind of design because I was limited by the one-way stretch. So I worked with this piece of fabric to see what I could create that was something that was functional and beautiful. And the chandra top ended up being this design where I use my Lithuanian linen bias trim, which I make myself as well, and recycled cotton and linen twine as a feature on the top. And so this was an item that I just sold off the shelf, and it suited so many different women's physiques that it was such a great design. So I created a tutorial series sharing with you the 3 essential layerable items that I think you need in your capsule wardrobe, and the chandra top was one of them. Now, in that tutorial series, I made it with a lightweight open weave fabric. I actually repurposed a wrap to create this top and the Adriana vest, which is, again, a design that I sold off the shelf, and it was one that worked on many different physiques. I did like to make that one to order a little bit more because I could put the armhole placements in the right spot for the person that was wearing it. But in today's little tutorial, I wanted to share with you how to actually transform your t-shirts into a neckline that works beautifully as a layerable under these types of designs. Having a more open neckline, not having the collar end up past the opening of the chandra top, being able to wear it with an Adriana vest. There's so many reasons for having an open neckline. I personally feel more comfortable with that, because then I can always add a big scarf. Like I used to make and sell these in the store as well. These are beautiful Lithuanian linen scarves. And you can add the scarf and then a poncho, and you've got warm layers that you can then peel back. And when you're indoors, a good example of this is the other week I had an appointment with a solicitor because we're selling our property, and I had to go in to see the conveyancing solicitor and sign the contract. And I was wearing a skivvy. I was wearing a woolen skivvy with a rabbit fur vest, which was perfect for, it was a -6 degree day in the morning. So to actually get out the door, it was freezing. And so that was really nice and warm and snug. But when I got into the office, they had the heating up quite high and I felt really hot. But I only really had the vest that I could take off, but I still had this skivvy that was around my neck that I couldn't remove. So really, it would have made more sense for me to have an open neckline t-shirt underneath the vest with a scarf that I could then just take the scarf off and feel less like I'm suffocating. And that's why I really like an open design and to be able to layer. And so in that tutorial series, I share with you how to make the chandra top. And there's also how to turn a throw rug into a poncho. I have bought beautiful hand-woven linen throw rugs and actually turn them into a poncho, which is a very versatile piece to have in your wardrobe. And so I'll have a link to that tutorial series because I work with tricky fabrics. And so there are tricks and tips that I give in the videos on how you can actually work with these tricky fabrics and not have them fall apart while you're working with them. So that'll be in the description. There will be a link to that. And there's also going to be a link in the description to my Empower Dressing Guidebook, which is a guidebook that I wrote to help you create your own capsule wardrobe that supports you in moving through your days effortlessly, with ease and grace, and feeling comfortable and just going out into the world and doing what you're here to do with the work that you're here to perform and the way that you're here to be. Not get caught up in whether or not the latest trends actually suit your physique or your lifestyle or the colors or the patterns. It's understanding at a foundational level what works for you and creating a wardrobe to support that. In this chandra design, for example, I have this merino version I have made longer so I can tuck it into the front of my jeans because it is a winter top, but the summer version is a lightweight and that I create shorter. But for you, it might be that a longer version all year round would actually be more supportive to your lifestyle. So in the Empower Dressing Guidebook, I actually have a measurement card included with that, and you can take your measurements. So you can take those to a dressmaker and have them make the designs for you, or you can record where the neckline, like the depth of your neckline, what works for you, or even the style of a sleeve, what works for you. So when I work with t-shirts for myself, just a regular t-shirt that I get from a gig, and the artist has, sometimes they've just got regular boxy t-shirts, which don't really suit me. I don't like the sleeves that are just, halfway down your arm and just a big boxy shape. So I recreate the neckline and I cut the sleeve into a cap sleeve using the same technique that I'm going to show you today for this long sleeve t-shirt neckline. So I just wanted to open up some inspiration on ways that you can reimagine things so that you get more use out of them rather than feeling restricted to how the design comes. So let's get into it, shall we? So once you've worked out the depth of your neckline that you like, you are going to just need a tape measure and some dressmaker's chalk. I have this pack of 3 different colors because it depends on the color of the garment that I'm working on as to which chalk works best. And so we're going to take the t-shirt and actually fold it in half with the 2 shoulder seams together. I like to actually pin that in place so that I know it will not move around. So we'll just pin those together. And then you just lay it down on the table I like to work on the front half first. So you just want to make sure that that is flat and centered and the sleeves are out of the way. So you're just going to lay them down evenly placed. And then because I know my depth, I've done it enough times, I know that from my shoulder line down to the actual center point is, I usually do it about 6.5 inches down. So I will just get my tape measure down from that shoulder line and put a mark as, I'm going to do this one, I'll do it as 6.25 today. Let's just do a mark across the center there. And I also like to mark the shoulder where I'm going to cut to, and I like my neckline to go all the way pretty much close to the top of the sleeve. It might be different for you, so this is where you need to work out for yourself where you like your open neckline to be. And so I will just mark. I'm going to actually cut to just up close to where the shoulder meets the seam. So I like to actually open my neckline right up to about here, which if I was to measure that, that's almost an inch in, but well, maybe 3/4 actually. I'll do, yeah. And then if you're not very confident with just cutting from that, you can actually draw your chalk line to follow before you start cutting. So I like to lay everything down flat. Now, the way that I make these, it ends up being, I should show you actually on this one. So this is one that I have done previously. I do a little zigzag stitch, and sometimes it ripples a lot, and I actually quite like that. It ripples on the edge, so you don't need to be too perfect. It's not a perfect finish. It's actually more of a raw edge finish. So I would just say that don't be too particular, but at the same time, you don't want it to be too zigzagged. So I'm actually quite comfortable with free cutting mine, but like I said, you can actually draw if you want with your chalk, or maybe I should just draw it so I can give an example. So you can just draw a guideline of where you're going to cut, and just being sure that you end up with a little bit of a scoop. You don't end up cutting in a way that has a V, unless you specifically want a V, but I don't want a V. So once I've got that marked out, it's only faint, I can probably only see it, you may not be able to see it on the video. Then I just start in the center and cut along that line up to where I decided I was going to end it. And then I turn my t-shirt over, still keeping it pinned together so nothing moves. Now with my the back of my t-shirt, I like to go just below where the label, you'll see the label is actually printed onto the t-shirt, so you can feel through the back, you can actually see in the back there where that is. So I like to cut just below the label, so that because it curls once when I sew it, and sometimes the label actually shows, so I go a little bit below that. And again, you can mark this out if you feel more comfortable, and then just meet that at the top. And so now we have our neckline cut out. Now we can also, you can tidy that up if, like I've got a little zigzag there that I might like to just tidy up a little bit. But as I said, we are going to actually zigzag stitch it, so it will ripple a little bit. I'll just take my pins out of there. Know where the other one went? Okay. And so I like to set my machine. I like to get a complementary thread. It doesn't necessarily have to be exactly the same color, but a complementary thread. And I like to make sure that the seam is actually folded over like backwards. So I just double check that that little seam there is actually folded in place properly, and I start on that seam and I'll do a zigzag stitch, and I'll do one that's fairly little, so not too big. So I set my machine to 3.5 by 1.5, so the actual stitch length is 1.5 and the width is 3.5. And so you just lower the foot down, place the needle in, and as I sew over the edge, I actually like the stitch to go right over the edge of the fabric. I actually stretch it out a little bit because I like to encourage a little bit of that ripple. I like the ripple effect, so I don't necessarily want it to be flat and perfect. So stretching it out as I go, sewing the edge all the way around the edge. When you get to the next seam, you just want to make sure that that seam is actually facing the right direction. It is going in the same direction as what it does in the sleeve join. So that's one layer of stitching. I usually do 2, and I do the second one in the opposite direction. So I start on the opposite side, the opposite shoulder to what I started on, or you can also flip it over. Where did I start? I started here. Or you can flip it over and do it on the inside instead of the outside. That's another way of doing it. But I just like to sew in the opposite direction, so it's not exactly over the top of where I've sewn previously. So when you get to the end, just back stitch, clip your threads, and you are done. And so what it does is it creates this beautiful little ripple effect when you stretch it out a little bit. You don't want to stretch it out too much, but there is now my open cut long sleeve tee. The other reason I also like to cut beyond the label at the back is you can always turn this around and wear it the other way if you need it to be a higher front and lower back, depending on what you're wearing it under. And no one's going to know because it's underneath something else. But it just gives you those options. You don't need to worry about the label because as you can see, it curls over. You can't see any of the printing because I've taken it out. The other thing I wanted to share with you is if you wanted to actually test your stitch first, you can use this little piece that you cut out to just sew along the raw edge and see what it looks like. What you can change your stitch lengths and widths and experiment with that before you actually sew on the finished garment. And these little pieces here, what I like to do is I like to keep them and I just put them in a suitcase, and when I've got enough, I do things like I have made ottomans out of corduroy, and these are full of fabric scraps, blanket scraps, because I used to work a lot with recycled blankets, and little pieces like this go into that. They make great dog cushions. You can make your own dog cushions, and these are actually, when I had the shop, I had I think 12 ottomans that I made, and when we ran cacao ceremonies, everyone sat on floor cushions, and they're all stuffed with scrap fabrics that I used from the shop. But you know, they've actually compacted down quite a bit now, so I could easily open up those seams and add more to it. So if you're interested in actually making the Tundra design, as I said, there's the 3 essential layerable items tutorial series that I've put together. With that, you also get a PDF which gives you all of the instructions of what you need in terms of the materials that you need to create those garments, and a video tutorial series that you can click through to via the PDF so that you can actually watch what I do as I do it. The other offering that I've got, which might interest you, is the Empower Dressing Guidebook. And so if you're interested in that, there'll be links to those in the descriptions to both of those things. And I just really want to empower you to just create garments that actually enable you to live your life on your terms rather than be governed by what the colors and trends or patterns of the seasons are. So I hope this little tutorial was helpful to you in actually creating your own items that suit your physique, your style, your lifestyle. So I look forward to seeing you back here soon, and if you would like to reach out and share with me what you have made and how it's been supportive to you recreating your necklines, please do. Like on Instagram, tag me into your photos and let me see the creations that you have constructed yourself. So I'll see you again soon.